Hello everyone, welcome to Let's Talk, a place to be seen, a place to be heard, and a place to be recognised. So today's episode is called Our Loss of Innocence. So we're just going to be having an insight into young people and what they're experiencing, and also the older generations and what they have experienced, and also the actions to be taken to actually improve things for both generations. So do you want to just start by introducing yourself? Starting here.
Okay, hi, I'm Rosalind. I live locally. I have 2 children, and I'm a community person, which is why I'm here.
I'm Clive Smith from As It Is TV and filmmaker, documentary filmmaker, and shall I say archivist of the African Caribbean community of Bristol and Britain.
Great. Well, my name is Tyree and I'm an entrepreneur. I have a business called Time Seasonal Sorrel. I also do with a lot of community work, so I help out in Trinity Tabernacle, helping the homeless and all those type of things. So that's me. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Dawn. I'm a student studying journalism and public relations, and I also am a radio presenter at Ujima Radio.
Hi, I'm Michelle Meredith. Again, I live in BS. I am a community person. I've been in the community for years. But today, one of my roles, I'm wearing 2 hats. I'm here on behalf of Malcolm X Community Centre. We're looking to work in conjunction with local communities and also with Babasa as the outreach person.
Okay, guys, so we'll just go straight to the first question, which is, who do you think has it harder?
You're talking about generations?
Yeah, in terms of
young
generation.
People, middle-aged people?
Yeah, like which generation do you think has it harder?
I
I'm
think,
gonna say teenagers.
yeah, no, that's all right. I was going to say the same. I think, yeah, teenagers have it pretty hard in the sense that, you know, economically, things are really difficult. It's harder to buy a house now than it was, you know, back in the 60s, 70s.
Yeah, I agree. Does anyone disagree?
I mean, I kind of do. I think, well, not really. I mean, it's a matter of perspective, I think, because the reality is that in the older generation, I believe they had a much more volatile circumstance and there was a lot more things out and open. So I think to that degree, I think the elder generation did have it hard physically, but mentally, I think this generation has it hard because of social media. They don't have a lot. They do have a lot of information thrown at them, so it's hard for them to filter. I mean, I think, you know, thank God for the older generation, some of them don't know how to use the text, so that's a gift in itself. So the reality is that I think both have pros and cons to them. It's just how kind of you see it in this manner.
Yeah, I think what you just said, the pros and cons, is from all different perspectives, because you could say what you said with the elders now, it was easier, but it wasn't, because it's a different time, and it's you would have the media, what was out at that time would be the equivalent to the media that is out now. It's just that it's a different time. Just how you had back then people who had an insight through certain things to have knowledge of how to move on or how to escape from the present position that they were in at that time. They had the knowledge to be able to pass it on, but not the media how we see it today. So the media passes on that information which many of our elders knew back then, but not as much now. And that's the difference.
Yeah. But, you know, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say that, you know, continuing with the media and looking into my own family, that there's a lot of influences from the media that affect, I think, our younger people who maybe aren't as wise as us to make their own decisions properly, so they don't necessarily listen to the knowledge that's within the house. They get their knowledge, which isn't always correct, from this media, which is in their faces.
If
Which could be a positive, but there's a lot of a negative as well. Sorry.
if we look at what Marcus Garvey achieved without the media we have today, if you research on Marcus Garvey, I'm sure you know, and look what he achieved, and us as African people today have still not achieved that with the media we have now.
I don't agree with that. I think many young people actually have achieved that amount of perspective compared to Marcus Garvey to some degree. Now, everyone's different, different ways of showing that kind of influence. I mean, I think the problem with the older generation to this degree, what I have, is that they either make you a statement for a particular black figure, but you're not them. You can never really be them, right? You can take their example, but you're you. So the reality is you're going to be the next star or the next whoever, right? You're going to be who you are, representing what your beliefs are. So yeah, there won't be necessarily another Marcus Garvey in that degree, because Marcus Garvey did his job on his role on this earth. Now other people are going to do their own roles, and there's many activists to this day that are doing what they're going to do. So for me, that's a bit of a problem. And then also I think that the older generation, to a certain extent, not all, but most have failed at many degrees, because I think you mentioned this, a lot of it was inside the community, in particular families, I'm saying, not community, mainly inside the family. And some families have, I mean, every family has a bad relationship to some degree. Some are better than others, not saying that's the case, right? But there are some families that are definitely a detriment to their children, and that they should, it was better when they went to the community, because not all the family were giving their honest opinions on certain matters. So I think it's a matter of both, because of course, we like to look to the older generation for wisdom, but for the newer generation, if they don't have a good solid foundation, then this community or this new neighborhood or whatever the case may be was a better example to them than what they have at home.
Yeah, that's good to think about.
Yeah.
And like to get into the next topic of race, and I feel like that links well. Like the older generation's gonna be telling you how to deal with racism. So the question is, when should young people learn about race? Do you feel like?
As soon as they can talk.
I was going to say that. As soon as they can talk and they understand, they should be taught it, and the history. I believe if they understand their history and where they're coming from, then they can deal with any of the racism that hits them when they get a bit older. It's that understanding, and going back to your roots. I think that's what's lost in some of the families. That's lost. The going back to your roots and knowing where you come from, where you belong, so that you can stand proud when you get faced with racism. Because I know where I'm from. I know my background. So I think that's what's missing. And they don't teach in the schools either.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think as well, for young people that have migrated to the UK from Africa or wherever, I think it's so important that they do learn about their roots and their heritage, because that really affects your sense of identity otherwise.
Yeah, especially when you get into maybe year 4 or year 3, when they start to talk about slave trades. It has a big effect on our young people if you don't know yourself, or you didn't know that happened in the past. So I think it's important for them to know as much as possible, but in the right way for their age. So you don't need a 2 or 3-year-old knowing things way above their heads.
It could be quite traumatic otherwise. Because I know for me, because I didn't grow up in Bristol, I grew up in Southampton, and I went to a predominantly white school. So when we were being educated on the slave trade, everyone always watches Roots, right? And being one of the only black people in the class, everyone's just kind of looking at you, and you're thinking, oh, okay, so this is what happened. So I think it is really important that you educate your children from a young age, so they understand. They have a bit of an understanding already, so they're not shocked when it actually comes to learning about it in school.
Yeah, but it's not just the negative things we need to learn. We need to learn the positive things as well, so we can feel empowered.
Because that's a big thing that a lot of people talk about, the trauma.
Yeah.
Like, especially as a young person, and now about racism, how people are going to look down on you. Like, how do you feel like we should teach young people how to deal with the trauma?
Maybe going inside of that time? You're thinking a lot. These are thoughts are going through your...
You see,
It's hard, isn't it?
I'm from the first generation as babies. I come here when I was 2. So we're that first generation of babies, 1962, right? You had those who were older, in their teens, and our parents. So what you have to understand when we say racism is a lot of people mix up racism with prejudices and certain powers and that. Now, as a youth growing up, my father would tell me, like for instance, when you're driving, there was no motorways, you're driving along on these A4s and your car break down and things like that. No one would stop to help you. There was no RAC or AA as I can remember. So you have to put yourself in the picture of where you're coming from. And it would be, you're listening to the elders. Why? No white man now pick you up, you know. Nobody ain't gonna pick you up. Nobody ain't gonna do this. And you're hearing as a youth, 6, 7, 8 stories why they're not gonna pick you up. You're hearing it. It doesn't register until you're experiencing what it registered to. Then when you're now in a situation where now you may come out that car, you may end up in an area where you can get seen to, then you now experience another form of what people would call racism. But at the same time, our parents who come from the Caribbeans and parts of Africa at that time, some of them didn't know what racism was, because in the Caribbeans, they never even knew what some of these words and these things was, so they didn't understand racism. Right? They understand that, yes, the Caucasians or white people had power and they were in control. Also, whatever they said was real. Whatever the school teachers told them when we were in school, our parents believed it, because in the Caribbean, they believed the school teacher would not do anything wrong, would not tell you anything which is not wrong. So you have to put it in its place. And there's no way I could disagree with any of you who are younger than me and come from a different generation, as what you said. But there's different periods of time, so we experience it from different perspectives and for different reasons. So racism to me is something which you talk about the experiences to your children, you let them understand. When my father and my mother, don't walk down that road, don't go up there. What do you mean? You're only saying that because you don't want me to go football. That's how you as a youth is going to be thinking. Because you want to stop me from doing this. You don't want me to do this. But when you go into that community, and now a group of boys is chasing you down, or you're walking with a group of white friends that you go to school with and you're all right with them, but when you go to their house, oh, why is the middle of your skin that color? Why is it this, that? Oh, God, you look like a monkey. You're now starting to understand what your parents is telling you. Some parents will not tell their children these things. So when they grow up now, they will venture into any area. They're carefree, they do this. We've had this happen in Bristol. Then the next thing, they get a bus head, they're in hospital, they're ruined for life. Now, they're understanding, what racism is, what this is. And then you can blame the parents for not talking. You can blame whoever the elder is. But sometimes they want to move forward and not give the negative, as what you're saying. It's just that, I don't want to say this to my children. I don't want to say that. I want them to be more positive. But sometimes by not saying what the negative is, you walk into a situation which affects you if you was pre-warned. That's what I'm saying.
But do you know, people feel like when you're telling young people about racism and stuff like that, they're losing their sense of innocence. Because say they're white peers, they don't have to worry. They don't have to worry about anything like that. So do you feel like when you're telling a young child about racism, they're forced to grow up with her?
I mean, yes, no. To go back on some of the things that were mentioned, because I think that links in with it perfectly. Yes, we do lose our innocence early, because I remember when I was at school, going back on your point when you mentioned that, every time it was Black History Month, every month, I can remember clear as day when the teacher kept talking about several Black leaders we have learned already for the 1,000th time. So black kids in the school were already bored. They were already experts at it anyway. So it's just kind of like, what's the point of going about it? And then they always talked about slavery. And I remember when I was when I finished one of my courses in college anyway, and I was the only Black kid in the class, and they all came looking at me like, they're trying to say, why are you not putting your opinion or whatever, why are you not more excited? And it's just like, well, I learned it a lot, and it's like, most history classes or like what school institutions do, like for Black History Month, there's always just talk about the negative side, and they don't actually talk about the positive. And so then we actually do, like you said, grow up more. We grow up with we grow up more quickly without the innocence, because of course we're like already programmed to believe and think a certain way. But I think you have to educate your children and have a community center, small community centers, to teach about Black history in different facets. It's always just like one particular thing. But I think again, it's also like, I think the older generation, to a certain degree, not all, but many, I think, always focus on this particular part, and they never go out and abound in a different generation. I understand, like, for example, particularly you're stopping your kids from going to certain areas. But if you continue indoctrinating your child to believe that you're going to have to always work 10 times harder than a certain person or certain doctrines that you have to continue thinking in your mind, then of course you're mentally programmed them to think they can never do, or they have to just work twice as much. And then by the time they're growing up and trying to do their own thing, it's just already too much of a hassle mentally, because they're thinking I have to go through that obstacle again. And it's one of those things where I think if we were more confident in our abilities and had a community-centered focus where we can go back and say, all right, you can teach whatever in that school, but when you're in this place, we'll teach you the real thing, then they will have, because if it's the truth, then you wouldn't actually feel any type of way. You'd be like, oh, they're just chatting nonsense, so I can just kind of leave and tune out, right, and do something else. And so that's my perspective. If you teach people the truth, in all generations and all races, I think too, because at the end of the day, if we talk about racism or slavery, whatever the case may be, and I've done history, every race to a certain point in history has been enslaved. There's various examples, like the Ottoman Empire, Roman Empire, white European slaves, Slavs, right? That's where most of us come from. So I think we just need to be more balanced and actually just educate everyone in a particular field to actually negate some of those bad notions and think it's a particular race that's only been through slavery. Because I had that notion when I was a kid. I thought, man, it's only Black people that have been through slavery. And then when I did more history and more objective history, not focusing on a particular part, then I realized it opens up to more things. Now, I'm not negating everyone has their own racial thing that's going on. I don't like, because some people take it off and like think, oh, so you don't care about this issue. It's like, no, but what I am saying is we take each situation as it comes and focus it on those particular people for those particular points in their lives, right? I think we shouldn't always group it together depending on the topic, because everyone has their own history and we have to deal with it more tactically and more specific than just grouping it into one lesson, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to ask, when you say grouping it into your own issue, what stage you realize or you think people groups it just into their own issue?
Can you clarify that point?
All right, for me.
Yeah, like what did you mean by
all
that?
Right,
yeah.
For me, I never learned about racism.
Right.
It's not racism, slavery. I've not taught about slavery in school.
Right.
Because in our school, in that generation, that wasn't there, right? I saw the first film episode where that generation at the age of 14 who saw the first roots. We saw the first roots before anybody. I go to Africa 30, 40 years later, and that's when they saw, in Africa, that's when they saw roots. In Gambia, the first time when I went 30 odd years later, that's when African people, where the Roots film was made in Gambia in that area, saw the film Roots. Now I saw it when I was 14. And when I went to school, I felt proud in what I saw, Kunta Kinte and Kizzy. I felt proud. I got positive things from that. I also recognize the anger, the painful side, because of the things that they did, the chopping off of the foot, and you now start to see, oh, that's what this was about. But the racism I experienced was before seeing slavery or what they showed on Roots. right? It was about what Europeans was doing to us and our parents and us in here. And because of education through religion, through talks that parables people say, and they don't even realize the youngsters are not understanding what the parables are being mean because it's not explained. That's the confusion. So I understand certain things you're saying, because some people say, well, drop off a head, drop on shoulder. What does that mean?
I don't really know. There's so many things like that.
Is either D-O or G-O. I didn't realize what my father meant, is either D-O or G-O, until I got older and started looking D-O, G-O. Oh, do or go. But it's how it's done, because it's not explained. So, and because a lot of our parents, how they were grown up, even they had to hide to do things. We cannot forget that what come before. And you got to put it in its right perspective as to now. And as you go older and you go through certain things, you're going to realize, like Malcolm X said, the more you learn, after a while, you seem like an hypocrite to your own words. Because you're now realizing, no, what I was saying then, now I understand it more. Because I'm at a different place in my life, I'm around different people, I'm seeing, oh gosh, we call cultural food that we have growing in our country, in around us, and we think it's culture to have it. So when we're talking about we must teach culture to our children, but now you got older and you understand what these foods are, these things are, that the Europeans planted in Africa, planted in the Caribbean, planting the sugarcane to enslave us, planting these things in there to damage us and give us diabetes and all these blood pressures and things. You start to realize, hold on a minute, we're calling something culture when it's not real.
Yeah, we have
So what's the question?
That's what I'm saying. That's the question. That's the question, because I'm saying putting things into perspective at different ages and different times. We have to understand these things, and it takes time.
Alright, so what's the question again?
Wait, let me tell you something. You have to be one.
Alright.
Yeah, you see what I mean? Like, when it comes to race, it's a passionate topic. We could go on, but, we have a time limit, but that is a passionate topic. But now we're going into technology, because, young people, we've grown up around technology. We've always had technology around us. Yeah. So do you guys feel like, because we just have technology, we have less life skills that like you grew up having? Do you think we're lacking that because of technology?
So, yeah. Not in a horrible way, but I think we, older people, have more, I think, it's not fact, we've got more, we can communicate better, we've got more life skills, I think, that's what I believe.
Like inner wisdom, because we've had to learn and observe rather than, because I believe that with social media and all that, they're implanting ideas to young people's heads as how they should be. And
and with social media now, we don't need to learn anything. We can just go and get it. We don't need to keep information in your head.
It's there and it tells you what you need to do.
So like, if we were lost back in the day, we would know our phone numbers. You would know certain things, but nowadays, like my kids, they don't know these little things. It's just small things for me.
The influencers also have got a lot to do, because a lot of the influencers are teaching the young people how to be something that they're not. Yeah. Because when you relate to an influencer, you're looking at the picture of that person, you think, oh, I should be like that. So and if you haven't got the mindset that you know your own person, you find yourself going down a path that you don't want to be, that you try to be like that person, but that's not you really, and I think that's when they start getting into trouble. That's my thought.
For me, technology, because I've just been one of those people that has embraced technology because of what I do. And I think it's a good thing. But because a lot of the elders was kept away from where things are now, technology is very difficult. But then the use, because of where we are now, technology is a good thing if they use it positively and in the right way. Where you go on, like I wish, and I had the technology that is there now as a musician. I'm a musician, I'm in the arts and all that. I wish it was around, instead of us having to take our money and go into these studios which we were not welcomed in, or they didn't understand how to mix our music, or they didn't understand what we want, and we're charged lots of money. Whereas the minute the Cubase came out and the Atari, this and that was like an orchestra in my own room. I understand technology from then. I've never stepped away from it. So it's a good, and I think it's good for the young people, and it's good for the elders like me who have had ideas back then, to be able to embrace it and to be entrepreneurs as well. Because now we can promote our own thing. We can, if you want to be a gardener, if you want to make things for your body, you know what I mean, clothes. We got, back in the days, we had loads of women who could sew, make clothes and this and that, but there was no outlet. They didn't understand. Whereas if the youth and those elders was to connect with technology, lots of our parents, of lots of black people in general, would be multi-millionaires now,
But
because they're doing their thing.
A lot of like older people always argue that point. Like my dad, like when I was younger, I used to make my toys. I used to make my toys outside and stuff like that. But I feel like now, today, like we've progressed to a level where young people don't have to be making their toys. Like our parents wanted better for us.
But then you can't. But you
I
can't.
like what you're saying, because the reality is, I think the elder generation have a better mentality. So like, if you have an elder teaching you, you have a better self-worth when when they taught you the truth. And so when you use social media, you can use it in a positive way. I think many elders have that, and I think many elders have the mentality, but many younger people have the capability, but don't have the mentality to do it. Because I know a lot of people do the foolishness.
And the two comes together.
Yeah. But I think there's also pressures though, in terms of, I think some elders, if they have the ability, just take a bit of time to learn the basics. Because I think they put too much pressure on the young people, especially in secondary school, to help them do with certain forms and stuff when they got to do other tech stuff like exams or essays and whatever. So I think there should be a balance to that. I'm not saying elders should be like, if you want to be a computer science, go ahead. But I'm just saying, just learn the basics, just quick skills to just help each other out. Because I know a lot of young people who have parents who struggle with tech, and their parents find it so hard and difficult. I understand that, no hate towards them. It's just reality. I think they just need to take the time to look into it and just do little things to help themselves and get by, because it is a lot of pressure and a lot of younger kids who have a lot of stuff.
Just on that note, my last job, I was working with older people, and actually you'd be surprised that a lot of older people want to learn the skills, but who's going to show them?
I agree with that.
That's where it's going to come to.
I think some young kids need to, young 20 to 24, whatever. I think they should take the time out to teach the older generation. I mean, I was offered that kind of position. Yeah, or even kids. No, I think it should be just generally young people, because I think a lot of people have the skills to do it, and a lot of young people have the skills to do it, and a lot of elderly have the capability to do it. They just weren't given a chance. And I think they need to have that time to be able to just learn basic things. And you'd be surprised, a lot of the tech stuff, really, software-wise, is really easy to pick on. I mean, it's just like, a lot of the tools are already made, so like all you have to do is really select what colors or whatever you want. Just if you want real technical stuff, you can get like someone else special.
But there will be an opening at Northwest. Tyree, if you're volunteering to do that, intergenerational.
Is it paid or you say volunteering?
Well, you've got to get your family involved.
I mean, man. I think, listen, I'm young, and the amount of times I've worked my due. I've worked volunteering. I've done it from 14 up to 20 for free most times, right? I think I need a little payment. Bills are coming. I'm getting hungry, and listen, this is reality.
So we can take it off air, but we are looking to do intergenerational classes and teaching the older generation just how to get on with the other IT systems and then take it on to the next level. But we're looking to start from the basics and all of that.
And I think, you see, you're talking from a perspective now, you're saying older generation, the younger generation must teach. But for me, it's a both way thing because there's a lot of younger generation, say for instance, who's involved in music, but cannot play an instrument.
Or beat making, you mean?
I come from generation that I play keyboard, guitar, drums, bass, anything like a string I play naturally. Now, I've been in studios with the new technology and the new this, and you have these youth making music and creating music that you could never play that. I don't know if you understand me. You could never play the keyboard that fast, or you could never get that sound from a real violin how you're playing it on the keyboard. You got the sound, but you could never play it like that because they're doing it from an electronical technology base, right? Now, if you have the elder or the person who understands the instrument teaching the youth to understand music, then those things will change. So that's what I'm saying, it's got to be both ways.
No, I like that because I think, I mean, Michelle, if you do the volunteering, tell me about it, because most even though I joke about like the paid stuff, that's why I do volunteering, because it's fun, different people. But I respect that because, like, playing, making music and stuff in many regards, I know a lot of people don't know how to play a simple instrument. And so when they're trying to play or trying to get particular sounds, like more of a classical sound, they really don't know how to play. They know all the techno or electric music, whatever. But I think there just needs to be a hub where that's available for both to teach each other. But there isn't really much like that, like any community centers. All the community centers I know are mostly closed or don't have much funding at all. So that's the thing we have to deal with. Now, is that something that is grassroots, we deal with it, or is it something you want the government to help pull in? That's the thing on.
That's where you become an entrepreneur.
True.
But guys,
help me out.
So to go back into technology, a lot of young people right now have a whole phone with the internet at their fingers. They can search anything. So, it's opened them up to other places in the world. But there's also the dark side of the internet, right? They have access to that. So do you feel like young people should have complete privacy online, or do you feel like it should be monitored?
I mean, it depends on the context and the age. I think, me personally, if I were to have children, I would probably want to monitor what they were doing online if they had access to it from a young age. But then, I guess, just like with everything, that it comes to a point where you do need to have your privacy, right?
I don't agree, sorry.
You don't agree?
That was a firm disagree too.
I think, children need time to be able to do their own thing, but if I was to say I want to see what you're doing, they have to show me. I just think that there's too much dangerous stuff online that they can access, and they might not be truthful and tell you. So I have an agreement with my children that they can do what they want to do. I don't necessarily go and pick up their stuff and stand over them and watch what they're doing. But at any point I could say, can I have your iPad? Or can I have your phone? And I will check it. And if they don't like that, then they should be on the internet. That's just my opinion.
Do you think it would get to a point, say when they turn 15, 16, that you would stop doing that? Or would you, if they're still like living in your household, would you still want to see?
I'll do it less, but I still would like to see, because I don't know what influences you're getting out there. I watched this thing the other day where there was a young girl, I think she was about maybe 12, and her mum and dad didn't think she'd be easily led. She was speaking to somebody online that ended up being, I don't know what the word is for them, but there's a much older person, and after about, I don't know, say 2 months, she agreed to go and meet the person.
And she was 12?
Oh gosh.
Yeah, but before going to meet the person, she was doing sexual acts. Yeah.
Grooming her.
Yeah, but if you spoke to the parents, they wouldn't have thought that their daughter, confident, would be doing this. So, I don't know. It's like peer pressure, isn't it? If you're asked enough, take this, every minute, then eventually you might give in. So I don't want my children to be the children that give in, and then there's a problem.
Yeah.
So I'd rather just oversee, because it's harm, it's not costing anything.
Because online you could be anyone, right?
Yeah.
You could be anyone. I could be Stara here, but I could be anyone I want online. So that's something to think about your
And
child.
there's programs on TV now where you are, is it called Catfish?
Catfish,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's
Oh,
a
man.
program.
What shame, what shame.
I love that show.
You've got to find out who the catfish is.
I mean, I agree. Yeah, I think
So that might be harsh, but
privacy, I think depending on the age, needs to be really, because I think after a certain point you have to trust in your child and believe that what they're going to do, if you instill them with the best, reality of life that you can give them, then I would hope that they would take your lessons on board and then you can trust them. But if you need to look when they're younger, I have no, I agree with that, because I don't know what you're doing when you're young. You could be clicking on things you don't, because I think we forget, especially younger the generation, we forget how quickly we can go on something like, I want to watch a free movie, or I want to watch TV shows, or I want to go on, find some back to not pay for something. Like, I want a Netflix subscription, but I want to find a cheap way, or, But going to the sites, you can so quickly and easily find the most, things that you shouldn't be watching and shouldn't be seeing, right? I think that is the danger of the internet in general. It's those simple things, or even if it's a regular site to some degree, it's the ads that are on the left or on the right. It's those things. So I think we need to actually have some, depending on the situation, but for kids, I think, you should monitor. At school they monitor who's on what on the computers. I think computer teachers do that all the time with the librarian. So I think that's respectable. But I think after a certain age, you're gonna have to just trust them and see where it goes from there. But at that point, if it was my kids, I'll probably not let them have any access to internet, their phone, to that 14, man. They're gonna have to rock up with a Nokia and just do it live and get clowned until they actually do it.
Be like us then.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah. Because to be honest, that's how I grew up. I was clowned forever having a rubbish phone, but I'm kind of glad I did have that, because I was forcibly not, I could not access certain things unless I had to do something very deliberate. And by that time, if I ever did, or other kids have done or whatever, you're going to get caught by your parents or whatever. So it's best that you don't do at all, right? So it's those things where I think is a mixture of both. But I think after a certain point, they're going to find different ways, and especially if they're young. Man, they're gonna find any type of back way to do stuff, and then we will find out. Exactly, you're right. So the reality is, you're gonna either get outplayed or outsmarted, but you gotta trust us to be you gotta trust us to actually find out.
I'm glad you said that. You everything you said, the most important thing to me was what you just ended with. They're gonna find a way. They're gonna because back then, we found a way, right? And there wasn't no phone, there wasn't this, there's a lot of things. We found a way, right? And I've seen children, grown-ups and this and that, and when you hear some of the stories, listening to what, now they're grown up and they're open to talk. And it's like, what? You did that, you was doing this, you was that. Yeah, remember that? Like you said, and we could change this. We can change this and we can get access to that. Yeah. And then you have to also look, we're talking about the technology and that, but if we look on the television alone, which is just given to us. Remember, when we were growing up, we had 3 channels. BBC One, BBC Two, and ITV. Then it went to Channel 4, then do you understand? Now, the world's your oyster. So, what you have now, still if you go to the normal TV channels, you're seeing, it's very easy, and it was happening then, to see a child or a child grow up to become a murderer, know how to plot to kill, how to get away with it, how to do things to get away from the police, because that's all you see on the normal TV, which is not technology anyway.
That's that. Yeah, but I agree with that.
Killing, murder.
On TV, especially, it's not just the internet. I think it's always just the internet. I think the internet is useful for many different things, like learning, right, purposes, right, for the benefit of getting you to a better level. But even on TV, I mean, some of the stuff I can't even watch on TV. I mean, the reality is, I think we neglect that. Some of the things we play on TV, on BBC or whatever the other things are, you know, BBC 1 or 2 or ITV, especially when you reach to a certain point, like 8, 9 o'clock, where most kids are hyped up now, you know, they're up at those late times, they're showing some stuff that I don't even think should be played on TV. But how can you really negate that unless you're going to be the one that's going to be like, all right, either get to your bed, don't come downstairs, or I'm making sure I'm turning all electronic stuff, dealing with the TV or whatever the case may be, completely off. Because that's the only way you're going to have to deal with that.
The thing is, if they don't see that in your home, they're going to go around to their friend's house and their friend's going to play.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think as a parent or carer, whatever the case may be, at least you have at least you knew you did the very best to say, I never caused that, right? Because sometimes I think most parents have kind of feel like, oh, I let them down in that way. But if you did your best not to do that, then hey, good for you. Like you said, you're gonna find your way to do whatever you want, right?
Very good point what you said, because what happens is, it's not until you walk that road, until when you have children, for those who haven't got, when you have children, and you're now in a different time and space, you now start seeing what your parents were saying. Yeah. Even though it's from a different perspective. You now start saying you may have 2, 3 children, and it's like, those 3 children, they're totally different from each other. 2 might be brilliant, but there's another one is very mischievous. You don't understand why, and you think you've let them. So there's all these things. So you got to be open-minded in the world we live in today, and understand more understanding in what's going on. And that's what I've had to learn, because you could blame yourself for everything. And that's what I'm saying. You can't just blame the internet. You know, you can't just blame that, because the same thing is on the television. I'll tell you something. When I go Africa, I'm shocked. You go Africa and you're watching television, and the difference is, it's not Caucasian people in the films. It's Asian, light-skinned people in the films. But the films is still about killing, ghost, and murder, you know, guns and kill, and they're sat down there watching it, and it's like, hey. Yeah. Evil. Everything is about evilness and about destroying people's lives. If not, is this, you can make money like this, and you can make, it's nothing to do with culture, and it's the same thing we have here.
Yeah, but I think with technology, with technology, it's not necessarily the tech in of itself, it's what's promoted. I think that's what it goes into. Because I think as a culture, the culture that we have today is very vain, it's very like in your face, and if you're not a particular way, then you're kind of neglected, or you're shamed in front of millions of people, and like mistakes that you genuinely made or didn't know because you were ignorant at the time, you're almost accountable for something you haven't done in ages. You learn from that lesson. And so the thing is, the culture, I think today's culture is definitely destructive to itself. Yes. I mean, I don't even want to name names, but listen, look at who are your famous record artists today, and would you want to emulate their type of life? You just like it because you like the flashy stuff, but listen, if they were my parents, I don't think I could live with much. I think I'll be living with a lot of shame than with my parents. Like, let's be real. Like, I feel like I'm grateful where I am at with my parents and stuff like that, because I know they present in their way, the community respects them in that way, and so you have honor, you have respect, you have like that type of love from the community where you go like, yeah, I want to be like my parents who are this particular way, that didn't have to do things in a mischievous way. I don't want to get into it, but like, you know what, on social media nowadays, those type of ways to get attention. It's just plain and clear as day. It's hard work and to many degrees talents that you innately have, but developing those things to create those treasures of giving to the community and bettering yourself. That's how I see it anyway.
And you know, like how a lot of young people do naughty things online, right? Do you feel like it's something to do with communication? Because do you feel like if you talk to your child and they have that kind of bond, they could trust you to tell you these things, they would? Do you feel like that's a thing that, we're not communicating as generations? It's just, this is how it is. So the child doesn't want to go and tell you that. They'll go to their friend or somewhere else.
I want to quickly jump in here. I just jump in here because I think this is a really important one, because I believe that for many parents, they find it really awkward talking about particular topics like that, like those type of things. And I think this is the problem, because if you don't teach your kids it, they're gonna find it out there in the world. It will come to them. So you better equip them with the tools to make sure. Because it's happened in my life. There's many things I was very ignorant about and I was thankful until friends showed me particular things, and it was like, there's stuff I couldn't deal with, and then I felt awkward. Like, should I tell my mom what happened, or whatever the case may be, right? And so I think that's where my line is. I think there needs to be a clear communication with parents. If you can't trust your parents, just that one person, a mentor, or whoever.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
I think that is really important.
Yeah.
Because people are naturally curious. When they start finding out about things at school, they're going to want to find out on their own, and that's why they start looking things up. And
the education at school, is that adequate nowadays? Do you think that? I don't think it is.
I don't think
Don't
so.
think at all.
I don't think no.
The things that they're teaching, I don't know, man. I wouldn't want my kids. Like, some of the stuff I was just like, I don't get it, because like, for me personally, they're just so vague with everything. Like they don't really go into much detail on things of dealing with things of a particular nature, especially when you're younger. They're kind of like this and this, and they don't teach you like examples of those things, because many people go through life thinking of, all right, I just learned the basics of a particular area and I don't know what that part means. So then they research it themselves, or a friend or whoever knows it more better, quote unquote, and then traumatizes the entire class, and then they got something to deal with.
Do we believe that? I think recently a couple of years ago they were trying to do sex education in classes, and then a whole different types of the community didn't want it to happen because they didn't want their children to be taught. So what do we think about that? Because the schools, I think, have got a difficult issue because they've got different communities in the school. What do they do about the families of those communities? They don't want their children to be taught.
I could give you an example. Sorry, Clive, because we had this issue at the school where my children go to. So what the school did was called all the parents in and taught us what they were going to teach the children, so we could see exactly what was going to be said and what kind of things they talk about. So I think that can help to bring parents.
Did you have to teach your child then?
No, they kind of treated us like we were the pupils and did the lesson to us.
Did they have an issue with the
only
content?
maybe just a few people after, but most of the class attended the.
So how did you find it? Was it, you sat there thinking?
I didn't have a problem in the beginning.
No.
Because I think the more children know, especially about themselves, rather than going out and finding wrong information.
Yeah.
So be taught early and taught the correct things.
But on the other hand, do you feel like there's anything that you just shouldn't be talking to the elders about?
No, I think it should all be open. Because, yeah.
Definitely.
I think we're all being kind of vague on what specific areas we're talking about. Because I think I'm on you on that, but I'm not sure which one you're talking about. But I think everything should be open to discuss. But I also think there should be the free will and the free speech to be able to disagree and not be kind of shamed for not agreeing with certain things. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah.
For example, take the example, of your kids learning those type of things, if your values or whatever you believe in goes against what's being taught, then I think you should have the free will and the free speech to discuss. You do what you want, but I still want my kids learning that, and so you should have the choice and freedom to do so. I think that's fair. That's how I see it anyway, because I know a lot of people try to force things down people's throats, and I think that's unfair too. But that's how I see it. I think it's a balance.
But I think in communication, I think if the child can communicate to his or her, mum or dad or whatever, I think that would help, because they could come to you with whatever issues they're facing and know that they're not going to be judged, you're not going to, hold it against them, but they can be open. I think that, and the parent also needs to understand that they need to deal with whatever, is being said to them and not react, because as a parent your first reaction is, right, that's it, you know, bring the police and we're going to do that. So I think there needs to be an understanding on both sides and give and take. And I should imagine, especially some of the youngsters now, if they want to come out to the parents because of their sexuality, I think it must be a huge pressure to actually, especially with some cultures, to actually be able to talk to somebody in your family and say, well,
Okay, guys, how do you feel like we could get young people and older people communicating again?
We have to, those who have an insight and is prepared to be open, come to collectively and create some forum based on all the things we've been talking about, where we can discuss culture from all different perspectives. Because what's actually happened, we've got all generations are growing up when they're older. When they're young, they're not being taught, or it's difficult to be taught because of what the parent has been brought up to do. They grow up, their children, still wanting to pursue their youngness or their youthfulness that they weren't able to do. Yeah. So you find the mother, the father wants to be entertained or wants to go out to entertainment, so you leave the child. The child gets caught up watching the TV, watching things, accessing things they ain't supposed to do, or going to babysitters, doing this and learning other things from whatever perspective. Then they grow up. So what you find now is a mother and a father who's in their 40s and 50s, they're assimilating to things, as I said, that they didn't have when they were young. Then you find mother and father and child and this moving like youngsters. So there's a whole thing just go, and it just perpetuates continuously going on because there's no education. There's nowhere we as a people have been able to come together and create that, we need to talk and tackle these situations, or to teach our youngsters and to teach the elders the whole thing. This we haven't got. You find in many other communities and cultures they've had it. But we as a people, through the enslavement of our minds and everything about us, through religion, everything, some of our elders don't know what to teach you because they haven't been taught. They've learned from experience, but it then becomes too late. So it's a very hard thing to do, but it needs to start.
We can start off by doing small things, can't
It's
we?
like small
by
things.
Just connecting elders with young people, getting people to share their skills because there's lack of communication and
and
people
storytelling.
Storytelling
is a great way to connect and just pass on knowledge and information, but in a friendly way.
And understanding what you're passing on.
Yes.
I keep going back to Africa. I didn't go to Africa until nearly 20 years ago. And that journey taught me it put things into perspective of everything that my parents, everything that I've been going through, and they couldn't tell me, or they were trying to tell me but didn't know how to explain. And for instance, it's like for weddings, for instance. You go to weddings here, we always have the master of ceremony. Yeah. He gets up and he speaks and he says certain things. Whereas the weddings I experience out there, the master of ceremony is actually telling the people about the journey of how the two couples met, where they're coming from, who was the great-grandfather, who was this is why, and you want to be a certain way before you can get married. We haven't got these kind of things because we don't know our culture, everything we've been taught. So we have to find a way, a medium of where we can start bringing understanding between young and older. We have to find that, or we're going to be lost all the time from other people's perspective of who we are.
I think that can happen.
Yeah.
But also I think that as a I'm talking about black people because I'm black.
Mhm.
We need to come together and
That's-
start liking and loving each other.
Yes.
Stop fighting each other down.
Mm.
Don't
And
worry
that's-
if that person
Yeah.
rises above you, because eventually your time might come for you to rise
I
as
think
well.
we find that I found, especially from my side, is that we don't tend to mistrust each other, and we get envious. If my, if sisters moving on with the business, you always hear, "Oh, I'll give it 2 months and then it'll be gone." So rather than try and help them on their way, we end up trying to knock them down, which is really bad.
That's a programming.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a programming that
Yeah.
has to be deprogrammed. We have to get there.
Yeah.
And it's going to take time, but it has to start.
Yeah.
And it's not happening so much, especially in Bristol.
Yeah.
You got it in London. There's places where men have come out and it's just a platform for young men, fathers and young men
Yeah.
coming out. With mothers and young women, come on, come out.
Yeah.
Then there's togetherness, talk, what like we're doing here now, but
Yeah.
bringing things to the table, bringing it to the forefront. So you're creating an understanding. Oh, so that's why you're like that. Oh, you're from that family, you're from that
Yeah.
part of the country. When you came here, people have no understanding of where we're coming from.
And then people complaining, I guess we use excuses like, oh, the area's been gentrified.
Yes.
But we don't have to live here to be a community. We could all live miles apart.
Right.
We just need somewhere to come together
Yeah.
at certain
Yes.
points, even if it's online.
But
we need to
everyone,
connect.
Yeah.
we've reached the end of the discussion now.
Ooh.
It's been a really good discussion.
Brilliant, yeah.
I just want to thank you all for coming and having this discussion. And hopefully we can make these changes in our community that we've discussed today.
We can start. That's what we said, isn't it? Let's start
Make this
small.
all start.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everyone for watching. If you want to get involved in Babasa, all you have to do is press the link in the description. And you could get involved in the show, or if you need help with your career or anything like that, you could contact Babasa. Okay?
Yeah. Right.